dirty news. So I want to get a chance to get to know my audience, so it's important. And I am an HR consultant, so I've been kind of anything that an HR person should be for the last 25, 30 years. So just bring it on. And now I've been a consultant now for 13 years in my own practice. So I'll give you a little commercial, just so you know a little bit. Word from our sponsor, that's me. And we do a lot of HR consulting and talent-related solutions, from talent acquisition, organizational development, leadership development, career and outplacement, and anything HR special projects. If I can't do it, I can always refer you to someone or bring somebody on to assist. One thing I don't do is payroll. I graduated from that, so I'm not doing that anymore, but I can refer you to a great partner with PayMaster. They're a great firm, so welcome. So in order to know my audience, how many of you are actually HR practitioners? Raise your hand. All right, so I know who I'm talking to. The choir, controllers. Good, any CFOs, lawyers, Indian chiefs, I don't know, whatever's left. Just so we know, I want to give a sense. Did I leave anybody out? If you're not an HR controller, just give a sense. Okay. All right. Something else? Okay, so we got a lot of those too. So thank you all for your attention. And who actually does payroll in the room? All right, so a lot of you. So you enjoyed Romeo's presentation on all the fun that's coming in 2020. All right, so speaking of the news, you remember this guy in the beginning. We're going to talk today about anti-harassment and discrimination. You've been hearing about it now. I've been hearing about it my entire HR career, starting back to the times that I felt I had been harassed. A lot of people that I poll in all of these sessions that I do when I train is they're afraid to say it, but yes, I've been harassed. It doesn't mean I've been raped. I've been harassed. How many of you have actually felt that you have been harassed, sexually harassed in your lifetime? And now things have changed, but they haven't changed enough, and you can learn about that when we get into some of these statistics, that it's still there and it's pretty ugly and it keeps surfacing and resurfacing. It doesn't have to be as egregious as a Harvey Weinstein, but certainly some of this unfortunately still is obvious in today's workplace. So it started in 2017 with an article in the New York Times where they alleged that Harvey Weinstein was a monster and that the only way that you could get a job in his movies was by, doing something for him on the couch. So as long as you said yes and you made it through the casting couch, you had a movie, a part in his movie. If not, then you were a bad person or a prude or, again, someone that he didn't want to do business with. So this started something off in about October 2017, and we thought for sure that it was going to change. Well, right after that, and we had a whole slew of famous people that came out, and you were to go ahead and name them all. I'm sure you could all figure out. I'd never get this thing to work, but I'm going to try. All right, you know this guy? Yeah. All right, yeah. This guy. We know this guy. And guess who's back in the news? Who got that? Spacey.
Yep.
Yeah. And each one of these you go over. So since the New York Times came out in 2017, multiple men in entertainment, the media and politics in the United States face a lot of allegations, and they all range from the following: inappropriate behavior to forced sexual misconduct, believe that this stuff still exists, up into including rape. So I was debating with one of my friends yesterday who was saying, these women are making a big deal over nothing. And I said, I even mentioned it in my training, if you can hear me, is that even a prostitute can be raped. Do we agree with that?
Yes.
All right. It's to the point that it becomes unwanted. I don't care if she's been doing this for a living full time for the last 20 years. The day that it's unwanted, it's considered to be rape or it's considered to be sexual harassment. So we have to remember that it's not all about somebody being a prude and get over it, you're sensitive. So the day is unwanted, and we'll talk about that when we get into the EEOC definitions. So, this guy, Les Moonves, this is last year, the great CEO of CBS, they found him Also, with a slew of women, a married man, it tends to be these guys with power and a lot of money, and they got a wife at home, and they're out having a good time with all these other women. And so it was found that he also had alleged misconduct, and CBS decided that they were going to move quickly and swiftly, and they did. And sure enough, once he admitted to the wrongdoings, which is still in courts today, he was told rather than give him his $20 million package to leave the firm, which they tend to do a lot of times, hush money, right? So instead of giving him that $20 million in hush money, they decided that he would have to take that money and deposit it into the now Me Too movement fund, which we'll also talk about later. So that was one company that did the right thing. So then our good old friend Harvey, who we hadn't heard about for over a year, and has been in and out of jail, and still says that he is not guilty. You've heard they all say it's all lies, it's not true, they all deny everything. Well, Harvey's back again, and this woman, she worked with him for 20 years. She's not even famous. Did you see this in the news this past week? Yeah. She was his assistant, and she's unfamous. She used the word unfamous. You'd never heard of me before. And she just, another article came out in the New York Times, and it stated that she was raped by him. Raped. This wasn't just touch me here, try me that. It was a rape, so it's alleged rape again. And she's been devastated throughout her career and her life. And she finally, after 20 years, was able to come up and say something. It ruins lives. Now, granted, this is extreme, it's egregious, this is not what we see in our everyday workplace, but I'm trying to paint the picture of what were you thinking? So, now our friend Matt is back in the news. I couldn't pick a better week to conduct this training. I thought, what can I need some new material, and good. Weinstein came back last week, and now Matt. Back to Hannah. Some of you saw that this week. Well, now we have the same situation. A book that's written by Ronan Farrow. It hasn't come out yet, but the details are in. And a woman is now claiming that she was the woman who, in Sochi, when 2014, working with Meredith Vieira, for those of you who are Today Show fans like I was, apparently she was raped, allegedly raped. I'm not going to get into the details, but this is another case. This is why I was debating with one of my colleagues. Again, with the women got to get over this, you're too sensitive, is that she had, at the time, a consenting, okay, it was a consenting relationship and an affair with Matt Lauer, another married, rich, powerful man, and it was consensual. And then, one day, at Sochi, during the Olympics, it was no longer wanted. And she claimed it as rape because he forced her. So it is rape. It was unwanted, and that is the legal definition, unwanted. So again, I go back to why prostitutes can be raped. The day it's unwanted, it's no longer against your will. And we have to remember that. So, Matt's back in the news. He's saying, I didn't do it, and again, he's denying all allegations. So, this is again just to paint a picture. So, it's not just in the entertainment industry, but more than 33 million people in the United States have experienced some form of harassment. I've had some crazy bosses throughout my career. I've been a professional HR person forever. I never asked for it, but I've had bosses, literally, powerful men chasing me around the desk, wanting to kiss me. I had a boss I had to travel with throughout training that I was delivering in Florida at a company, not to name what it is, and I had to go from place to place with him, and he had the nerve to knock on my hotel room, wanted me to have a drink with him and give me a kiss goodnight in my pajamas, and I had the little door chain. I was really young, and I'm like, what do I do? I'm scared to death of this guy, and I was supposed to give him a kiss on the cheek just to make him leave, but I felt violated. It's like, yuck, I don't want to kiss this guy. And then the president of the company, I thought he was just like, a father figure to me. He was just a great mentor to me. And then he went to kiss me on the lips. I'm like, yuck, I don't want to kiss this guy. I'm in my 20s, he's like 55, married with 12 kids. I'm like, what is it with these guys? But this is the stuff we women, unfortunately, had to put up with. I'm sure men have had some in reverse. But these are just some of my recollections. I remember another vivid one where the boss is coming down the escalator, telling tell me about the sexual experience he had with his wife the night before. I'm like, I don't need to hear this. I'm not the HR director with 900 employees I'm working for him about. And he thinks it's okay to talk about that. And in those days, this was prior to the Clarence, Tarrant, and Anita Hill situation, where I thought, good, this is going away now because they made such a big stink. Everybody remember that in 1990 something? That was huge, and I thought that would change the world of anything to do with sexual harassment. Well, my boss had to go through the same training that everyone else went through, and he actually came and apologized to me for the things he's been saying. So I was happy to hear that. He just didn't know. He was unaware. It was kind of a thing to do back in the day. But now with this whole Harvey Weinstein and 2017, it's all come back. I thought we were done with this after Anita Hill. Didn't you? We got great HR professionals in the room. I've been doing training forever, and it still exists today. It still exists. So, it so happens since this whole Harvey Weinstein thing brewed its head, online searches on harassment increased to 566%, meaning that people are wondering, does this mean harassment? Have I been harassed? Does this mean rape? Am I being too sensitive? What's going to happen to me if I complain? So up 566%. More than half Americans have experienced unwanted or inappropriate sexual advances at work. Again, you don't need to be raped. It's when it feels uncomfortable. It just isn't right. It doesn't belong at work. 3/10 have tolerated unwanted advances from coworkers, as well as just bosses. And 25% have endured this behavior from men who had influence over their work situation. And again, it can also include the opposite of man on woman. And 42% say they reported incidences to their supervisor, whether it resulted in an investigation or not is to be said. So, it's not just in the entertainment industry. Everybody hear about what happened with Google last November? Over 20,000 employees in November 2018 walked out because of an extreme sexual harassment culture. At Google, one of the most forward-thinking, progressive companies you're ever going to hear about. And Google had this culture, all right? 20,000 people, so sexual harassment stops here. So they protested sexual harassment globally as 20,000 employees walked out on this one day. So, this was a perfect example. You can see one of the signs up here where it says, I reported and he got promoted. So, here you got someone who went to HR or wherever they went in that company to go and report, and they were all guilty. Nobody wanted to do anything about it. They're afraid they're going to get fired. They're afraid of retaliation. And so, this person got reported, didn't do anything about it. Well, fast forward when all this started to happen, then 35 managers were immediately fired for allowing sexual harassment in the culture. But how did this all start? Oops. It started because their wonderful CEO, Andy Rubin, who, by the way, was the founder of Android phones, and Andy Rubin was then the CEO of Google, and he allegedly had multiple sex partners, another married, powerful man with money, and instead, they gave him $90 million as a hush money package to make him go away. And when the employees found that out, that's when they walked out, and 20,000 people said, we're not having it. So yay to those employees, and they have since been turning over the management team and instilling, they have to now, because it's a big brand and it costs them a lot of money in lawsuits. So you can only imagine a company like Google, you would think they had it figured out, right? So, pretty disappointing, but now they're mandated because they had so many lawsuits. So he's gone. So, an online survey that was launched in 2018 in January called the Stop Street Harassment found that 81% of women and 43% of men had experienced some form of sexual harassment. So it's still here. This is recent, all right? Overall, 20% of U.S. employees have reported sexual harassment claims at work, and that includes 10% men and 27% women. So it's all over the place, and it's gotten a little better, and you'll see when we get into the results, but 75% said they never even reported it. And so, back in the day when we didn't know what to do, today I tell them to take a hike because I know that the laws protect us. And I would have told the boss, but I was too young and innocent and didn't know what would happen if I said no, or if I pushed him away, or if I said, look, I'm going to the board to report you. Because we didn't have that support back in the day. But that's what I would do today. So you should keep that in mind as well, especially if you're in a management position and you're not feeling supported. So we're going to briefly talk today about a number of different topics related to this. I'm addressing it from an HR standpoint, from a business standpoint, for you as controllers, CFOs, even payroll people, HR practitioners, etc., because this is not teaching you how not to be a harasser. I assume you're professionals, and yeah, we'll go through some of those behaviors and definitions, but I don't want to teach you the class. I hope that you have it, or you'll hire me to teach the class to your employees. But the fact is, I really want you to see it more from the business side and understand the impact on your business. So we're going to talk about the impact of sexual harassment on your business, what is sexual harassment by definition, types of harassment and what constitutes harassment, the legal impact on your business, building the right culture for the right behavior, and prevention measures so that we can mitigate exposure. Do we have any risk people in here as well? I know some of you have that as a part of your job. All right, so I have to read some of this. I don't like to, but I want to make sure you understand the true definitions. The EEOC filed 66 harassment lawsuits at the end of 2018, including 41 that included allegations of sexual harassment. This is after the Harvey Weinstein 2017, when we thought this has gotten out of hand. So that means that we've had an increase in suits challenging sexual harassment. It increased by 50%. And I've been teaching classes now for about 2 years since this whole thing blew up. And I thought for sure it was going to put me out of business. And quite frankly, it's increased by 50% just because it's coming out now. People realize if you see something, what? Say something. And we weren't allowed to speak up before. We were, again, those sensitive women. And so we were afraid, we didn't know what was going to happen. And again, I'm saying women because that's what I am, but this is for all parties, okay? To feel that when you see something, say something. And that the culture is now free to do so without retaliation. Whoa, that was interesting. All right, so what is the impact of harassment on your organization? Well, we know that it will impact employee morale. Think of those 20,000 people at Google who walked out. You think they had good morale? When you report sexual harassment and your boss gets promoted, like let's reward him for bad punishment? How about lowering productivity? If you're sitting here worrying about your boss touching you again or saying something that feels yuck, you're gonna not be as productive. Maybe you won't even want to come to work. Absenteeism. I did an investigation recently where the subject, the person who was the complainant, she actually didn't want to come to work, even to talk to me, the investigator, because she just didn't want to be around the guy that she allegedly accused. And so, we dealt with that situation, but she was literally didn't want to come to work. I had to meet with her off-site. It was so sensitive, she didn't want to come to work. It impacts turnover, it hurts the employer brand. Then you have, what about the management of the company? You think the company Google looked really stellar with Andy Rubin at the helm, or Matt Lauer sitting in that seat? What do you think it's done to the NBC, affiliates and everything else? Everyone's thinking, they allow this to go on. I happen to know, though, because I have a friend who was at the time the VP of HR at NBC, and they had a zero tolerance policy. So once this came about and this complainant went to NBC's HR department, they did the investigation, and within 24 hours, that was gone. So they did the right thing. They did the right thing within 24 hours. All right, so the distraction, of course, to do an investigation, I sometimes can take months to do an investigation. Anybody been involved in an HR investigation? You either conducted or you've been witnesses and had to, get interviewed. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of documentation, a lot of reports. Costs money to defend a case, and it also, there's related damages as well. All right, so this is HR Harassment 101. For those who don't have the background from the EEOC, that's the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which is the governing body for our protection as employees. Harassment is unwelcome, and that's the key word, unwelcome conduct that is based on race, color, religion, sex, including pregnancy, national origin, age, which is 40 or older. Doesn't mean you can rape somebody under 40 and get away with it. Disability or genetic information. So harassment becomes unlawful when it's the enduring offense, conduct becomes a condition of continued employment. So if, make sure you do this with me on the couch, Mr. Weinstein, or you can't be in my movie, that's a condition of employment. You're gonna lose your job if you don't do X with me. And the second is that the conduct is so severe or pervasive enough to create a work environment that a reasonable person would consider intimidating, hostile, or abusive. So all of the law says it's got to be a reasonable person. So if there's some wackadoodle that's just making, a lot of noise, then that's why we do investigations. I can't tell you how many investigations I've had to do, and not one has ever turned out to be 100% proven true, because we didn't have enough documentation. We would counsel the person, put them on warning, separate the bad people, but we never had enough documentation. That's your job, is to make sure that you take good information down and keep good records. There weren't enough witnesses, or the witnesses didn't see enough for it to really be warranted, or we fired somebody because it was egregious sexual harassment, like the Harvey Weinsteins and the Matt Lauers. I've never experienced anything as serious as any of these, just so you know. I had one that was a little weird, but they were never to that point. It was more about feeling creepy because the boss said X, Y, Z. So I'm just gonna say, have you ever had anything serious in your organizations that are serious enough that they had to be terminated? You did. I know it's confidential, so.
We call the police.
Call the police, so that's real serious stuff. That's serious, so it's assault. Yeah, when it's assault, that's as serious as you can get. So, what is sexual harassment? It's a form of gender discrimination, and it violates both Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act and any state discrimination laws. So again, the EEOC is the federal agency that enforces these laws for our protection in case you're working in a company where nobody cares. I have a friend who was working in a company where she was the only female, a bunch of guys, kind of like an auto kind of a company, and they were just making a lot of fun with her, doing things that were just totally inappropriate. And I said, you have the right to go speak to the owner and let them know that you people are, making you feel uncomfortable. She says, no, I'm afraid of getting fired. For what? Raising your voice? No, it's hard enough to work with these guys now. I'm afraid of getting fired. So what did she do? She quit. I said, great. So they win and you lose, and so she quit. I said, why don't you now go to the owner and talk to him and just make sure he knows what this environment is like. You got nothing to lose now. You're gone. You left. She says, no, I don't want them to come after me. She was so scared of them. I don't want to make trouble. I don't want them to hurt me on the job reference. So we all have these little fears. So meanwhile, this bad behavior will continue, right, with the next victim who decides to work there. And it's really unfortunate. I would have loved to know who that company was, because I would have followed up. Yes?
Victims have to file within 180 days?
Yes. You've got 180 days with the EEOC, your employees. If they don't get the right service from you about a claim, they only have 180 days to go to the EEOC. But I'll show you what else they have as a recourse. But as far as an EEOC claim, 180 days. Yes. Thank you for reminding me to bring that up. Because they think, when you hear some of these stories, like the victim that just came out from Harvey Weinstein after 20 years, it doesn't mean anything as far as her job. It doesn't mean she's going to call the EEOC because she's no longer there. It's about getting her money and talking to the lawyers, and then another allegation towards Harvey Weinstein. So they're changing some of the laws so that that statute of limitations is longer. But as far as your employees go, they only have 180 days. So it's a little fresher. Does that help? So just take a look at what we're seeing and the impact on all of you, HR and your companies, is that a typical charge can involve more than one claim. And these are the statistics right now from the EEOC. 45% are retaliation, which is the fastest growing right now area of harassment claims. And then it goes down from race, sex, disability, age, national origin, religion, and color. So, you know, sex is still pretty up there with almost 30% of them being claims, but right now 45.9% of the claims that are coming out of retaliation. I just came from a client this morning where the manager did such a poor job of documenting bad performance that now the employee's gone to HR claiming my boss is harassing me and it's age discrimination. And they're the same age, just so you know. She's not performing, and this employee's been there for 2 years, and they've never put her on warning, they've never written down all the things she's done wrong. And so now she comes to HR and, you know, age discrimination. And now if we do anything about her performance, which we now have to start slowly building a case, it's going to look like retaliation. Oh, you ignored my poor performance for the last 2 years, I make a complaint, and now you want to get rid of me. Retaliation, right? I see you nodding your head. So you got to be really careful to keep your documentation about performance. And actually this person was there for 17 years. She had stellar reviews. She's got a new boss, she's not performing well, and you know, there's no reviews, there's nothing on file to tell us that she's not performing. So it looks like her boss doesn't like her just because she's not doing the right job. So we've got to now dance around this and make sure that it doesn't smell like, look like, or is not motivated by her alleged feeling of age discrimination. It's because she's 63 years old, she thinks she's being age discriminated against, but that is not what this is motivated by. She's just not doing her job. That's why we have good attorneys. So, taking a look at some of the statistics, we haven't done a great job looking at all of the charges filed with the EEOC between 2010 and 2018. You can see that we started off with claim receipts of $27,000 and change, and it's paid out $118 million. And it keeps going up, thinking, oh my goodness, look at it, we're still at only 26,699 claims for 2018, resulting in payouts of $134 million, which keeps going up, you know, as it gets more expensive with inflation, right? So it shows that even with all of this extra training, even with all this new sensitivity and awareness, it's either coming out more because people are more sensitive to it and not afraid to speak up. But the fact is we still haven't done a great job at addressing these issues. So it's not just sexual harassment. We also have charges other than sexual harassment. Again, this is right off the EEOC website. From 2010, they had 21,000 and change in receipts, paying out 21 million and change. And the same thing, we had 86 million down in 2010, and now we're paying out $94 million. It's a lot of money. I mean, we have a lot of people collecting money for stupidity. All right, we talked about retaliation, and retaliation is the fastest growing area. Well, this is for wrongful discharge as it relates to race, religion, sex, national origin. So this is all about discrimination. So people feel that they're being fired for all the wrong reasons, and so now they all feel they're all claiming retaliation. So it could be sex-based, it could be age-based, it could be any one of the things that we're talking about, and it just keeps going up. You can't read this, but I can tell you it's gone way up, and this is where we are today. So, retaliation is an adverse action that's taken against an employee because he or she complained of harassment or discrimination or participated in an investigation. So if after that happens, there was an executive that claimed harassment, they fired her because they just figured that she was making up stuff, and then she got like a $26 million payout because it really was retaliation. And this stuff just keeps growing. So any adverse action, such as firing an employee, including a demotion, discipline, termination, salary reduction, a negative performance appraisal, or change in job duties or shift assignment, can look like retaliation. For the same reason, the woman that is now talking about age discrimination with my client, if we start writing her up now, retaliation. So everybody gets that? We should have been doing it along the way. So So now we've got to, it's going to be a while before we can do anything with her. Hopefully she'll perform right, or maybe she'll just retire at some point, but we can't make it happen. All right, so areas of liability. In your packets, I don't only have a little information on, actually the whole PowerPoint is in there for you, but in the last page, on the left side of your packets, I have a little quiz. Many of you are experts, but some of you aren't. If you will quickly take a look at that quiz, and just answer true or false if you have a pen. If not, we'll just call out the answers together shortly. All right, don't worry if you haven't finished. I just want to test your knowledge. So you can call out as a group. If your intentions are good, your behavior isn't harassment. True or false? False. False. Good. Give yourself a star. Number 2, people who are harassed usually do something to invite it. False. False. Good. 3, if everyone else thinks a coworker's behavior is okay, you should just accept it, even if it bothers you. False. False. Good. How about number 4, using slang nicknames that denote coworkers' race, ethnicity, cultural heritage, religion, sex, or age is okay, as long as it's done in a joking manner. False. False. How about at the workplace? False. How about the barbecue? False. Right, you can't do any of that. All right, number 5, asking a coworker for a date is not sexual harassment. True. True. Anybody debate that? I always have to talk about that. You can ask them out. One time. If you keep doing it, and they keep saying, no, thank you, then you say no more. And then it's what? At that point, it's unwanted. And then if it keeps going, then we're talking alleged harassment. Okay? And then somebody's got to speak to them. So, I had one class where somebody said, oh, you just got to be persistent. No, you don't know. I married my wife that way. And I said, no, that's not going to fly. So, you just have to know when no means no, right? All right. So, number 7, both men and, back. Okay, 6. People whose clothing, personal articles, hairstyles indicate their cultural heritage or religion should accept the fact that fellow workers may make tasteless or offensive comments about their heritage or religion. False. 7, both men and women can be harassed. You got it. Good. Number 8, an employer is not responsible if a person who provides a service like filling the vending machine, repairing the copier, the mailman, blah, 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 harasses its employees because the provider services is not employed by them. Really good. Anybody that comes into your building, if they start harassing your employees, you have a right to tell them to go away, call the owner, tell them I don't want them here anymore, because you have a responsibility to your employees first to provide a safe, healthy place to work. So be sure that you understand that I don't care how much money these people make or give you, even donors and non-for-profits, parents and non-for-profits. There's a lot of those like, well, we have to put up with this. You don't. All right? You shouldn't and you don't, because that is alleged harassment. All right, very good. Number 9, if no one complains about your behavior, that means you are not offending anyone. False. False. 10, if a harassment victim tells a manager or supervisor that he or she has been harassed, but asks the manager or supervisor not to report the harassment, the manager or supervisor should respect the wishes of the victim. False. Good. Wow, something in that food. Number 11, one incident of unwelcome conduct cannot support a violation. False. 12, frequently teasing an employee because he or she is older is not prohibited conduct. It's false. That's false. All right, you shouldn't be teasing anybody anyway because it's unwanted. 13, teasing and crude remarks directed towards a coworker with a disability can constitute unlawful harassment. Very true. Yes.
Frequently teasing, you said it's false, but it says it's not prohibited conduct.
So that's like a double in there. But the fact is that
It's not.
it's not, meaning it's the opposite. So so that's why we say false. Number 14, if a manager hears one employee making remarks about another employee's religious observances, the manager should just wait to see if the victim complains. False. Right, false. And 15, if an employee complains about workplace harassment and an investigation does not prove the allegations to be true, an accused supervisor or manager may discipline the employee for filing the complaint.
False.
False. What would you call that?
Retaliation.
Excellent. Give yourselves a can. Good job. Good job. All right. So you guys just passed the class. So you don't need it anymore. But you know your employees might. So moving right ahead. Back to that definition. This is my definition. It's not about sex. It's about power. If it's unwelcome and unwanted, it's harassment. So keep thinking about that. The word unwelcome, unwanted. I don't care how many times they've had sex in the back of a car outside of the stockroom. The day that somebody, man or female, or man or woman or woman, the day they say, no mas, no more, I don't want it, that's rape. That's considered unwelcome. You need to keep that definition in your mind. All right? So, you know, they immediately bring up all the dirt from the past. You know that if you were really in court. The truth is, you really do need to think about this and realize that it is unwanted. At some point, relationships end, don't they? Somehow. All right, types of sexual harassment. Quid pro quo means this for that. We're dealing with that right now in some of our political proceedings. Quid pro quo in this case is sexual harassment is when an employer or person of power makes employment, benefits, or other perks contingent on sexual favors. That's Harvey Weinstein, very clear. You know, if you don't give me what I need on the casting couch, you don't have a job. An example, a supervisor suggests you should go on a date with him if you want to be picked for the next big project. That's Harvey at its best. So, hostile work environment. This is a good one. Hostile work environment is unwelcome conduct that is based on race, color, religion, sex, including pregnancy, national origin, 4-year-old or disability or genetic information. And the harassment becomes unlawful when the enduring the offensive conduct becomes a condition of employment again. You will do this favor for me or else. Or the conduct is severe or pervasive enough to create a work environment that a reasonable person would consider intimidating, hostile, or abusive. How many times do employees say my boss is harassing me? Because it's really a performance issue. And you really have to know how to break down that perception. And I can't tell you how many employees come to me or have come to me throughout my life telling me, you know, my boss is harassing me. And again, that's not harassment. They may be coaching you the right way. They may be, their style may not be all loving, kissing, and nice, but you have to also separate whether that's a performance issue or a real harassment. By its definition, is it motivated by, you know, conduct based on race, color, religion, etc. You know that I heard an attorney lately who's been saying the same thing about curse words. It seems to be really growing more in the workplace. I was sitting in a client yesterday and I'm hearing F-bombs and all kinds of stuff going on. It's an open environment, and a Google type of a place. And I went to the HRMP and I said, what is this? They're talking about all this profanity like it's just in their meetings like it's any day of the week. And the fact that it was offensive to me because I'm not used to it, and maybe I'm just a stickler as an HR person, but it just felt uncomfortable that they have such a great culture, but they're like talking all kinds of stuff and replace stuff with other words. So, because it wasn't sex-based and it wasn't discriminating, we weren't saying you whatever, and I wasn't directing it, they weren't directing it towards me. I may have been offensive, but they weren't directing it towards me. So yes, they don't want that in their culture, but it's not illegal. So it's kind of a, ooh, you know. So you have bystander harassment too, where enough people are sitting around whatever's going on, and if they start complaining, that's a form of harassment. So you don't have to just be the first-hand victim either. All right, this is something I like a lot. People think that they understand the difference. Remember, you ask that person on that one date, it's either yes or no, you get that one shot and that's it. But they still don't understand the definition, the differences between flirting and sexual harassment. So I'm going to help you with that. Flirting is welcome attention. However, sexual harassment is sexual harassment which makes you feel uncomfortable. If you get that ooh feeling, it's considered inappropriate. All right? Flirting goes both ways. However, sexual harassment is one-sided. A feel that makes you go, ooh. Flirting makes you feel attractive. Sexual harassment makes you feel degraded. Kind of know? Flirting makes you feel in control. Sexual harassment makes you feel powerless. Flirting makes you feel good about yourself. Sexual harassment makes you feel bad about yourself. And flirting is legal. Sexual harassment is a violation of your company policy, and it is illegal. So that's some of the gray areas that I find employees just don't understand. Again, you can date, you can go out with people, many of you have policies that you can't, fraternization policies, or you have to tell HR that you're dating the boss or whatever it might be. But the fact is, policy or not, they need to understand what's permissible and what's not. Any questions about this slide? And it is in your packet. All right. So, talking as business owners and employers, we're slipping now to the next part of this. An employer can be liable for harassment by a coworker, non-supervisory employee, or third party, vendor, customer, or consultant, if the employer failed to show or provide no reasonable avenue for complaint. So that's what they call reasonable care. You have to have some avenue where they know where to go. What if the manager is the harasser? They need to go to HR. How many have to go to HR if there's a complaint? All right, what if HR is the bad guy here, or girl? Then you need to have another avenue. Your direct supervisor, the CEO, the board of directors, an 800 number. You need to have alternatives, 2 or 3 alternatives in your policy, because you don't know who the alleged harasser is, and the employee has to feel comfortable with who they speak to. The employer knew or should have known of the harassment, but unreasonably failed to stop it by failing to take prompt and effective corrective action. So, we may not know about it until it's brought to our attention. Okay, now we know about it, but what are you doing about it? Are you just sweeping it under the rug because it's now louder, or are you taking appropriate action because it's our policy? All right. Harassment on the basis of any characteristic is prohibited by law. These are the areas that are all covered, and not every state, but be aware if you already are not trained in these areas, sexual orientation, which is becoming even more and more of an issue in corporate America today, with separate bathrooms, and how do we dress and what do we do. It's become highly sensitive, and employees are hypersensitive today because of that. Military status, familial status, education, handicap, it just goes on. There's a thing called GINA, which is also with genetic disposition, your marital status, creed, physical appearance, or ancestry. So we're fighting for everything today. We're protesting for everything today. And people will come in and they're going to say, gee, I feel uncomfortable because. And then how many of you actually do diversity training in your organization? So people understand diversity and inclusion, that we're all, respect each other's differences. But our society's changed. It's not all the same as it once was, where we all eat the same food and walk the same way and live in the same neighborhoods. Today, there's a lot of welcoming diversity, and it gives us all an opportunity to learn new things about other people and enjoy, what all of this brings. So, who's liable here from harassment? Well, it's not just the bad guy. It's the companies, the owners, the supervisors, the directors and officers. Everybody's liable. The HR people can be liable. If they don't act on a claim properly, HR can also be liable, as well as the perpetrators themselves. The employees who allowed it to go on, they didn't speak up. You really do need to have some set policies. How many of you have an anti-harassment policy? And so some of you may not. If you don't, I would highly, highly recommend that you get something, even if you don't have a corporate attorney, that you make sure if you have to get one off of Google or the Society of Human Resources benefits, they give you samples. So if you don't have anything, you need to have something, and you need to rehearse it and make sure that it is adopted by your company, and that if not, you go to see one of your local attorneys. And the gentleman that's going to be speaking after me, Brett Schneider, he's the master of some of these policies, and just tap into him. He's a wonderful attorney. So employers are always liable for sexual harassment by a supervisor or a manager, and they may be liable for the behavior of other people as well. So you've got to be sure that you address these issues as they occur. I had a client recently who decided that they didn't want to address a harassment situation until the somebody came back from vacation, they had a big event, an annual event, and they were gonna wait a month because she was so busy, you know, putting this event together. They didn't want to distract her. Well, meanwhile, she had 2 allegations against her, and a team of employees all going to the president complaining about harassment. And how can we just ignore that? Well, we'll deal with it later. A month later, you can't do that. The minute you get a complaint, there's no law stating it. I'm just telling you, it's a hotbed. Make it a hot potato. I would address it immediately. Within 24 hours, you need to speak to the employee, speak to any witnesses, and you need to speak to certainly the alleged victim more first and foremost. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. So each claim can result in $50,000 to $300,000 in court-awarded damages per complaint. That's a lot of money. And I didn't want to sit here and state all this case law because it gets a little boring. You can look it up. There's a lot of it. Because my alarm tells me we got 10 minutes. I can't shut it off. And so you'll find that some big bucks, we're talking millions and millions of dollars if it gets to that level, because they're class action suits and it gets rather costly. So nip it in the butt, because just one claim can be anywhere from $50,000 to $300,000. It will hurt you because you then have legal defense fees. You got to deal with lost productivity and work time. You're also dealing with the street, negative publicity. Imagine what happened at Google when 20,000 employees walked off the job because of their CEO getting $90 million, and everyone there is considered to be harassers, and they fired 35 managers. You think that's a place I want to apply for a job like right now? I don't think they got their acts together quite yet. So I would be thinking, I'm going to wait a little bit until they have it, the culture changes. So they're working on it. But that will really hurt your employer brand. All right? So let's say your company doesn't care. Let's say you don't have, you're beyond 180 days for the EEOC. These are some of the things your employees can do if they have a claim and they feel they've been harassed or discriminated against, or even wrongfully discharged. They'll go to outside counsel. They'll go find an attorney. They bypass HR because they feel HR is part of the problem. They might feel it, I'm not saying they feel it. They also could go to the EEOC if it's under 180 days. They can go to social media today. Everything goes to social media, right? Everything. So why not just say my company is, and this is what happened, and really embarrass everybody. They also go to the news, which is what happened with these 2 very large New York Times articles for Weinstein and Matt Lauer. They can also go to what's called the Times Up Legal Defense Fund. And that's what you see right over here. This was in 2017, now it's up to over $24 million. $24 million that any employee of any company and their families can go to timesup.com and they can file a complaint. They will get free legal representation. They'll go after your company. The money's there. They're a bunch of ambulance chasers. They're going to look for trouble, look for settlements. So just know, when there is no recourse, employees now can go here for free. For free. So you better watch your back, employers, and deal with these things as they occur. Any questions about that? Keeps growing. Anybody know about this fund? Didn't know it existed. Okay. Well, just Google it one day and you'll see it really, it's there. And there's a whole lot of information about it. All right. Conducting investigations. I'm going to try to breeze through this before we close. How many of you actually had to conduct an investigation? I know you did. All right. So just for those who haven't, you just need to take it very seriously. If an employee comes up to you anywhere and states that, I feel that I've been harassed, whether it be, sexual or other, it's a hostile work environment, you have to take it seriously. I don't care if it's somebody that is a horrible employee that you can't stand. We all have them. We all have them. You still need to say we take this very seriously and take it down and document everything, the date, the time, were there any witnesses, and find out what happened without being defensive or without judging them. And then an investigation should ensue. If you don't feel you have the skills to do it, you talk to your legal counsel, outside legal counsel, or you ask for a third-party investigator like myself, but make sure that an investigation takes place. It doesn't always have to take place. I want you to know that. Not every little complaint requires a complete investigation. What it requires is some action. It might mean separating the two people. It might not necessarily mean terminating them like you have, which was so egregious to the point of assault. Sometimes it's just a misunderstanding, or maybe you need to coach that person, maybe you need to just put them on warning, and maybe it doesn't require a full-fledged investigation. You gotta use your judgment on that. But if you don't know, feel free to call me and I'll tell you if I think you need an investigation or not. All right? Listen carefully, be sensitive, don't judge, demonstrate your familiarity with the company's anti-harassment policy. How many of you know your policy and had to sign off on it, and then your employees had to sign off on it? Be sure that all your employees have signed and understand your policy. If not, I always do it in the training. I make them read your policy, sign off on it, and it goes in their HR files. You need to have that on all employees to make sure that they follow the policy. And it will help you later if you have to go to court to show that everybody was aware of it, we sensitize them, we train them, and it doesn't take you off of any charges, but it will lessen some to show that you took a reasonable effort to do the right thing. Do not promise absolute confidentiality. Sometimes they're embarrassed. Gee, I don't want to tell you what he did to me, and I'm kind of embarrassed, so don't tell anybody. Well, how can I help you if you don't tell anybody? Act like the CIA. There's certain people that we need to know, and we will run it by those people, and we will keep it confidential. And anyone that's in the investigation should also know that they have to keep it confidential as well, and not discuss it outside of the investigation until corrective action takes place. So, when you receive that complaint, if you don't have an HR department, and whoever's designated should take that complaint and take it seriously. So, for those who have policies, know that these are some of the things you need to do that are best practices. Is to clearly define and prohibit harassment in all settings, zero tolerance, like NBC did. I don't care if it was Matt Lauer, it was egregious, it was unacceptable, and within 24 hours, that guy was toast. All right? Identify the individuals that are covered, and any protected classes, anyone over 40, okay? And we're good. And provide examples of any prohibited conduct, explain your complaint procedure, consequences, and the appeals process, if you should have one. Prohibit retaliation for reporting in your policy. Lay out possible consequences when they're applied. Include any collective bargaining language if needed, and then reconsider language in your severance agreements. So it was back in the day that the Andy Rubins of the world would get a $90 million payout, or Les Moonves would get his $20 million bonus, but now we're starting to write severance agreements to say if you don't behave, you're not getting your bonus, you're not getting your, that special, what do you call it, the money that you had coming to you, so you thought when you were leaving. So this way they can behave. And you should be looking at that with your legal counsel about rewording some of those severance agreements and offer letters for these executives. All right. How many of you have EPLI coverage? No? It's employer liability coverage. All right, very important. If you don't, talk about it with your CFO, your controller, your owners of your businesses. They probably do have it, you just don't know. Most smart business owners do, but if you don't, it will cover you for losses related to harassment. They have a certain number, a threshold. So if you have an actual claim, they'll address your unique exposures. Cover everyone necessary, including owners, directors, and officers. You clearly define any wrongful acts and other terms of this policy. Include coverage for punitive damages. Avoid exclusions that may restrict coverage. So if you have an EPLI right now policy, you should read it, because you may not be aware of the exclusions. And you may have a claim and then you can't use it and you're paying a lot of money for this. It may include third-party liability coverage, and then you need to clearly define who is covered. Is it employees? Is it contractors? Is it families? Who might be? So, let's see. So, you got a complaint, what are you going to do? You're going to go talk to your employment attorney or your EPLI broker, should you have one. You need to listen with care and document the incident, assign a point of contact, do not promise confidentiality, on a need-to-know basis only, inform the accused party that a complaint has been made, review the investigation and the policy with the accused, and interview all, including any witnesses. And so we already talked about that. Make your findings and then make a determination. So, how many of you have a zero tolerance policy today? All right, consider it in your policy going forward. Of course, an investigation does have to take place. You're not going to say, you, out of here. You still have to do a policy. You still have to have, a process of investigation before you decide to terminate somebody for zero tolerance. All right, make sure that your policy contains a definition of harassment and a description of all of the information we've already talked about. So, we're talking about culture. Make sure that you foster a culture that allows for diversity and inclusion. Pay attention to what needs to be fixed. Listen to your employees. It's all about respect in the workplace. This is really what we're talking about, is respecting each other's differences and respecting each other as, was that noisy? Shut this off. Okay. And, let's see, where are we? All right, so in summary, your responsibilities, these are guidelines for action going forward when you are talking to your employers and your bosses. You need to serve as a role model. You can't be the harasser and expect everyone else to be good. Know your anti-harassment and discrimination policy, create and support a positive and professional workplace. Know how to respond when there is a complaint. Know what to do when you observe harassment of any kind. See something, say something. Practice and enforce zero tolerance and speak up if you're unsure. Make sure you report your complaints to the appropriate parties as designated in your policy, starting with HR and any authorized company representative. So I think that takes us to the thank you page. Any questions? I know you've taken it all in, and you're all experts now because you did great on your quiz. So my information's up there. If you have any questions, I'm always available. I want to thank you for your attention. Great job.